Mel Kiper just dropped his brand new 2024 NFL draft rankings. So I am here to put it up against my own, check it out, and review it. What is going on? It is Alex coming back at you with another video. So if you are new, feel free to join the show, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to join the community. We are on our push to 10K. I would very much love to get that by the end of the year, but we're going to just have fun on this journey. So stick with me. Feel free to check out the brand new tight end video that just dropped, and we're going to be getting a little bit more consistent content as my schedule is now stabilized. Hallelujah. Let's get right into this. Starting off with Mel's number one overall player, we got Caleb Williams. Surprise, surprise. Again, below my face is my actual board. Am I insane? Absolutely. Am I ashamed of that? Absolutely not. Also, got to give a shout out to the sponsor of the show, Olipop. So it's been a brand that I've been supporting since probably 2020 to 2021. It's been a brand that I've been using since before that, but obviously they have become a super giant. Feel free to use code Hail Mary if you guys want to buy any of that online. I just get it honestly so I can give myself discounts and get stuff weeks early. So, I got to have the ginger ale before it was released to the public, which is pretty damn awesome until you become addicted to it, which is what I've done. Regardless, Caleb Williams, he is just super duper special. There are rumors that he could potentially not come out because he doesn't want to go to the Cardinals. I wouldn't want to go to the Cardinals or the Rams organizations. So I believe those two are the two worst in the NFL. If there are some other ones, honestly, the three worst include the Raiders at the moment. And if I'm the Raiders, I would take Caleb Williams, but it's like I would hate to say Aiden O'Connell can't have a starting gig, but Caleb Williams is the best quarterback that I have ever scouted, and to be fair, that list is pretty limited in terms of how many I have graded. So, Caleb Williams is awesome, great player, and just overall, he makes some crazy, crazy plays. The most recent one that he made versus San Jose State, people continue talking about it, but the play before, you'll see after that he's shaking his hand because he actually ended up hurting his hand on that play. I think it's why he dropped the snap. So he also threw that without having perfect grip. Just have to throw that in there because a lot of people have been hyping that play, not even realizing how insane that play is because, it is. It was just not supposed to happen. It was because he was injured, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is the next one. Again, we're step for step here. Marvin Harrison is a phenomenal receiver, highest graded wide receiver that I've seen. I wish I had a grading scale back when I looked at Jamar Chase, but we have it now, and that's all that really matters. Marvin Harrison is a stud of a wide receiver and potentially is going to be even better because he apparently clocked 23 miles per hour, which means that one of his weaknesses, which is, his limited top speed, is no longer a thing. So definitely going to be up there with the Calvin Johnsons of the world and the Jamar Chases. So very excited for that. Marvin Harrison just has pretty much everything that you could want, except maybe, running or being able to evade guys in open space. Not necessarily the best guy at that. Then you got Olu Fashanu. This is where we take a little bit of a divergence. I totally understand why people love Olu, but I have, and it's the same thing with Paris Johnson. Paris Johnson and Olu are kind of cut from a very similar cloth, and I know that he talks about it right here. I have an issue with tackles that have poor anchors. When they can get driven back, I'm not necessarily comfortable with that. I think the stability of the pocket is one of the nuanced things that not many people value enough, in my opinion, my humble opinion. And you get to see a lot of these tackles struggle with power. Olu did struggle against powerful players, and I think that's something you could definitely reteach a guy. He has the size. It's not like he's so light on his feet that he can't anchor himself. I've seen guys who are 300 pounds have really good anchors, so it is more of a technique thing. But I think that Olu Fashanu is going to be much more of a post-draft analysis as to whether I think he'll have a good NFL career. If he goes to a spot that is not beneficial, you don't have a good O-line coach, or they just don't have a good track record of developing offensive linemen, I doubt he has the day one impact that a lot of people were hoping for. That's why I wasn't a huge fan of the Paris Johnson selection. Haven't seen guys like Josh Jones who have a ton of potential actually develop there. And Paris has more talent than Josh, but not significantly. And that's why I'm a little bit worried if a team, let's just say the Rams, got Olu Fashanu. I don't know if it's going to work out the way that it could. I don't think he's going to be a bust of a pick whatsoever, but there's just a certain level of risk that comes with each player, and there's also a level of reward. And Olu, if you send him to the right spot, if you can find the next Jeff Stoutland, then you're going to end up wanting to take him over a higher floor guy with a lower ceiling like Joe Alt. But for me, I am much more excited for. I should honestly move Joe Alt a little bit down. He'll probably end up, which I honestly thought I did, he'll actually end up being probably 10 on my board. So keep that in mind as well. So I'm actually moving Joe Alt down my board to 10. I don't think there's like an elite tackle in this class, but I think there's some damn good ones. Drake May is next. I have been saying this. I do believe he's going to end up being my number 2 overall quarterback in the class come this year, but the inconsistencies with ball placement certainly did worry me. There's a lot of those passes, like his statistics look a lot better than just the pure gameplay. You just see balls thrown down too low, down behind, and to a certain extent, a catchable ball is a catchable ball. But when you go in the NFL and the windows are closing, the DBs are 10 times closer and they're on the hip, you got to get that elite placement. And there are those plays. There are. He's an accurate quarterback. It's just the consistency that worries me. It's a consistency thing, and a lot of quarterbacks, including Desmond Ridder, I'm not putting them in the identical category, but the concern is similar. The consistency is not there. Desmond Ridder was complete butt cheeks in terms of not hitting a target on target, and still is. Like, he's starting, so power to him, but I highly doubt that, people are really comfortable with Desmond Ridder as a starter because he does not throw on a consistent basis on the money. And Drake May hasn't either, but his high-level throws are ridiculous. I still have him as a top 32 player. He's still going to be a very valued asset. It's just, he's not a home run hit the way I think some people believe he is going to be. You got Brock Bowers, who I just ended up talking about yesterday, actually earlier today. So you guys can go check that video out for more in-depth. But I totally agree. Brock Bowers is also my number 5 player in the draft. He's just somebody who's truly special and up to 240 pounds. Good to see him up there from 230, elite blocker, which is a surprise at his size. But he's just a fun player to watch. He really is. I don't think he's as elite as what some people say, like that he's the best tight end to come out in the past 10 years. I think Kyle Pitts was more dynamic and overall better, and he's just been to a worse situation. So speaking of Atlanta, but obviously that ship hasn't really gone to course the way that it could have. Brock Bowers, I think, is a little bit more of a safe projection because he's so good as a blocker. You can just get the ball in his hands. So I think that if he goes to the right system, obviously he'll ball the F out. But I feel like his floor is a lot higher than what Pitts was, because Pitts was a weird prospect at like that 6'6", 240 range. Then you got Jared Verse right here at number 6. He is my number 8. I love Verse, and it's pretty obvious why people love him. He knows how to convert speed to power. He came from Albany and then instantly hit it off at Florida State. You don't really do that if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have that innate talent. He wasn't there at Florida State for multiple years developing. He came from Albany and had an instant impact. So it shows also why you can't discount dudes like Tyson Bagent. He came from literally Shepherd. I'm going to be honest, there was no All-22 tape on him. I make my opinions on All-22 tape. And that's the unfortunate thing. A lot of these guys have access to PFF Ultimate, it's PFF Ultimate. And that's a luxury I wish all of us had, but it's not, simply put. And it's unfortunate, but, just don't discount small school guys. Jared Verse is a perfect example, and Florida State knows exactly what they're doing. So cheers to whoever the hell Florida State is using as an intercollegiate type of scout, because they found a really good one in Verse. Speed to power, great size, just overall a fantastic player. Then you got Joe Alt here. at the number 7 spot. So I'm actually going to have him down at number 10. So he has him higher than I do. I think Joe Alt's a phenomenal player. I just don't feel like he has the power within his hands, but I also believe that he might just not feel the need to. He has definitely plenty of reps where he absolutely shuts down top tier edge rushers. So good for Joe Alt. He is a very consistent player, by far my tackle number 1. Even though he's going to be getting closer and closer to Taliesin, it's not because he's gotten worse. It's just because a lot of these players are really damn good. Speaking of one of those, Kool-Aid McKinstry gets better and better the more I watch him. He has the perfect frame. He comes from the perfect background. He really reminds me a lot of Patrick Surtain the more I'm thinking about it. So just somebody who's going to probably be a day one hit. Not to mention he's going to sell a ton of jerseys, especially if he ever puts Kool-Aid instead of McKinstry on the back of his jersey. I would love to see Kool-Aid in a number 1 or number 0 jersey in the NFL. I may be willing to buy it. So very, very excited to see what Kool-Aid's going to do, because I feel like my grade for him was already high and it might be jumping up over the season because I get more and more excited about this dude the more I see. Chop Robinson, I am not very high on remotely. I don't think he has the consistency down to down to really get my motor going. And for me, I love consistency. There are those edge rushers that are like top 10 in the NFL on 3 plays a game. And those 3 plays might be what can make or break a game. But for me, I want a player who'll be a top 25, top 30 edge rusher every single play of the game rather than one of those dudes. I think that kind of being able to rely on consistent performance is a little bit better than somebody with high ceiling. Chop, I believe, did end up adding weight, so we'll definitely see if he takes that step up, but I just personally didn't see it. I wanted to so badly, but I just simply didn't. Then you got JC Latham here. Another player, he's up to 360. That is ridiculous. I thought it was at 330. I'm going to definitely have to check that one out. I did not know he's up to 360. So he might have added another 30 pounds of weight to him as well, because he was extremely nimble for 330. I think it might have been 335. So, obviously he could have been adding a ton of weight. Don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Not everybody could develop into DeJuan Jones. A lot of guys at that weight just end up playing like in-season DeJuan Jones. JC Latham, my biggest issue was, one, he's technically extremely flawed. Adding 35 or 25 pounds of weight doesn't make me feel very comfortable about his mechanics getting better because he's in a different frame of mind, a different body type. That does concern me. And when it comes to being able to add extra power with your hands, I don't think that adding weight is going to necessarily change that. He already had the size. It is more of a technique thing with him. So I am a little bit concerned on that front. We'll see what happens, but I don't think that's going to be a major issue. I'm concerned though because of the fact he was so raw at a lighter weight. It's just you have to be more efficient the larger you get. Otherwise, guys are going to take advantage of you, like a Chop Robinson, who has great get off and all that. So, JC Latham does worry me. Seeing him take off reps, and I also saw Javion Cohen do this as well. Seeing guys take off reps where they can kind of just stand there, even in the middle of it, kind of give up mid-rep, that's a big no-no in my book. And I saw JC do it. I saw Javion do it. It is just something that is a big red flag to me. And especially when you have a quarterback like Bryce Young, that's a no-go for me. So that's why I'm very low on JC Latham, because I believe he's graded out as my tackle. He's actually going to probably be number 12 or something eventually. And this is 10 overall. Kalen King is next. I love Kalen King. He is, my number 11. So Mel and I are finally back in a lockstep here. Kalen King is a freak. I love Joey Porter Jr., and Kalen King is just a more balanced version of it. He's obviously the same weight pretty much, but at a couple inches shorter. So he's better built. He's an amazing run defender. I love him. He really does have that feistiness to him right there. Mel says it perfectly. And there's just a refinement to his game that makes me very comfortable. So I really love Kalen King. I think that he has a super bright future in the NFL. Just somebody who's going to be able to play regardless whether it's a run, a pass, where he's in man coverage or in zone. And he has the athleticism to maintain a good position. He gets torched here and there, but he's still in a good position when he does. I fell in love with Tyson Campbell, seeing him get absolutely yacked by, what's his name, Kyle Pitts. Like, I fall in love with players even when they're taking losses because at least they're in the best position possible. And Kalen King is on most plays in that same mold. So great player. I love him to death. This class is a very good set of corners at the top. Dallas Turner is amazing. He just is a little bit light, but he knows how to convert speed to power. This guy's a freak show. He's going to be on that Kayvon Thibodeau level to me. He is very similar to Will Anderson, graded out just slightly lower, but at the same time, I also changed up my grading scale. That's the big issue, is like when you're trying to figure out what the right grading scale is, it's not the easiest thing in the world when you can't look back. But, Dallas Turner still performed phenomenally on that front. He might have graded out potentially better than Will Anderson because I think Dallas Turner, in terms of versatility, is much better than Will Anderson because he can cover better than most linebackers. But that's just because I fall in love with Dallas Turner. This has nothing to slight Will Anderson, who I ended up, I believe, having as a top 2, if not number 1 player on my board, because Will Anderson is a beast. But Dallas Turner, awesome player. Just again, size concerns for sure. Leonard Taylor, glad to see him. So he is my defensive interior number 1. Same thing here with Mel. He's the best player when he's on the field. There are a lot of reps where I do sense that his conditioning is off. I will continue saying that. The pictures, I feel like his body type is something that would allow for a potential 6-pack, and he does have a gut there. And when I see him having a lack of explosiveness on, maybe the 5th play of the drive, naturally, yes, players are not going to be as explosive, but it is a significant drop-off. I do start to question whether he's in shape or not. And he's obviously in shape, but we're talking about in, starter prime shape. And I don't really believe he has that just yet, which makes me think that he could be even better. So honestly, I love him the way he is now. I have my concerns, but I think I could love him even more. Totally believe he could end up being a top 5 selection in this draft. Keon Coleman, I love the Keon Coleman love. He is just outside my top 32, but that's just because right now he's a little bit more unpolished, especially in terms of his release package, than what I would like. But I totally understand the sentiment. I have Johnny Wilson above him, but I totally get a guy who is more naturally built for an NFL system at 6'4", 215. So Keon Coleman's awesome. I loved him there at Michigan State, called him out quite a few times last year, just popping off. So he's been on my watch list for a while, and then to see him go to Florida State is ridiculous. Chris Jenkins, I have him at 18. He's here at 15. Excited to see what he's going to do with an extra 20 pounds on him because he played like 305 at 285, and I don't know if he'll have that same athletic profile. And I really hope he does because he could definitely end up being my interior defensive lineman number 1. He ended up tying grade-wise with Jerson Newton as well as Leonard Taylor. But, this guy, I'm just a little bit concerned. Again, you add 20 pounds, what type of player are you going to be? We've already seen him be super successful at a lower weight. I have that PTSD of DeMarvin Leal, who was an absolute freak at 285 and then boosted up to 300 and was not the same person. I don't think that's going to be what happens to Chris Jenkins because he's not moving from an edge to defensive tackle position. But, I still will have those reservations deep inside. But he's still an amazing player. So Jerson Newton, we have the same top 3 defensive interior. I don't think there's much wiggle room as to what the top 3 should be. Jerson's been somebody who I've been hollering at for the past year as well. Seeing that the first time I watched him was actually versus Wisconsin, and it was just a straight line dash towards Tanner Morgan that showed me how actually athletic this dude is. He's a hand technician, knows how to disengage, someone who I really fell in love with. And, I was hoping he came out last year, said that he's been criminally underrated. So it's exciting to see him finally get the respect he deserves because I have been pounding my chest for this guy. And it's good to see that, sometimes the eyes do work. Then you got Malik Neighbors. I'm a little bit lower on him, but if I'm going to be completely honest, there's very limited all 22 out there. There's only a couple of games, and I'm not going to solely base my opinion based off of those. Malik Neighbors in year 2 with Jalen Daniels is going to be super awesome to see. So I'm totally open to moving him way more up. He is very athletic. He has really good after the catch numbers. I think that his route running needs to be much improved. And I don't think that's necessarily, right here, best trait is speed. He can take off the top of a defense. But I have also been notoriously lower on guys like Jameson Williams. These speed burners are not necessarily the guys who I fall in love with. I love Jalen Hyatt because I think he could run routes. If Malik Neighbors can develop his route running, I'm absolutely happy with him being in the top 32 because great size, great after the catch ability. Speaking of somebody who has honestly everything I ever wanted in a receiver, Emeka Ibuka. Like, this guy is an absolute freak show. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. We have Johnny Wilson in here. So for you guys who are like wondering if there is somebody still in there, yeah, there's someone still in my top 5. But Emeka Ibuka, he sits number 14 on my board. I love Emeka. There's just, every time I watch him, I just know that he's an awesome receiver. So I don't really need to, it's hard to really qualify what I'm saying because, I'm not obviously backing up with evidence. There's just an intangibility when watching Emeka Ibuka. It's like, I know he's going to work in the NFL. He's going to be awesome. He's going to be Treylon Burks, but more fluid. And I love Treylon Burks. So, I'm a little bit biased on that front, but Emeka Ibuka is just an awesome receiver. I think he's going to have a very bright career. Cooper DeJean, I think he's definitely going to end up. So there's something about Iowa players because apart from Jack Campbell, I wasn't over the moon about Riley Moss. I was definitely not against him. But Lucas Van Ness, I did not like that much because I thought he was a one-trick pony. I think Cooper DeJean's a safety, and I think he should be number 19 overall as a pure safety. He's way too stiff to actually be worth being a corner in the first. I don't like seeing he's silky, not because the verbiage is what I'm pointing out, but it's because of the fact that when you see him move, he's slow to react and he just doesn't change directions as fluidly as many of these other corners in this class. And I just see how fast this guy is and how big of a hitter he is. He's great in run support. And this is exactly what I'd be looking for out of a safety. Now, if you want to take Cooper DeJean as a corner and test him out, but know that you could put him at safety, that's a different story because corner's more valuable. But Cooper DeJean I don't trust him as a corner. So that's where I lay on that. Riley Leonard, he is my number 10 quarterback in the class. I don't think he has a good arm for NFL. I just don't like it. I thought he was pretty solid, but it's one of those guys where I'm going to spend like a 5th round pick on him. Good athlete. I haven't looked at my report on him in a hot minute, but there wasn't stuff that really got me worried about him. I just didn't really think that he had the NFL traits to be better than a backup. I think his ceiling is a backup quarterback. And I could be wrong about that. There's going to be a lot of tape that comes out. But I'm just not over the moon about Riley. But I have actually watched him. There is all 22 out there. Bo Nix, 21 for me at 23. I do love me some Bo Nix. So he's a fun player to watch. And the thing is, you got to watch him pre and post ankle injury because you'll tell how much speed he's used to putting on that ball. And you'll see it for sure. And you'll see that some of those interceptions that he throws are because those are balls he can normally make, but he can't load up the ankle with as much torque or with as much weight so he can generate more torque on it. It's unfortunate, but we also at least had the luxury of seeing what he's going to be when healthy. And he is a good runner, so it means that he could get that ankle injured more often because he'll use it. But he does have he has an extremely high ceiling. And I think he could end up being one of those guys that people continue to clown, but in time they'll get used to being like, okay, he deserves it. Laiatu Latu, I just don't really trust somebody who had a medical retirement because of an actual injury. It wasn't even concussions. It was because of that. And thank God Jordan Phillips hasn't really dealt with too many of those issues, knock on wood. But, when Jordan Phillips was coming out, I said he shouldn't come out. Like, I wouldn't draft him out of respect for a human being because I know concussions really do mess with people down the line. But again, he's his own person. He got to choose his path. And I'm very happy to say that, he's a very good player. Leatu Latu, I'm hoping, is of a similar aspect. I'm not going to definitely come close to those type of claims I made about Jordan Phillips. But Leatu also is not nearly as good of a player in my eyes, and I don't think he's as effective with his size. I don't think he converts speed to power. I think his best trait is his length and just overall as an athlete. There's a lot that he needs to develop. I don't think he's there. I don't know if he's going to develop over the year as much as he needs to. And that's why I'm a lot lower on him than, top 32. But I understand why. He has a great frame, he has great length, and he's a good athlete. And he has a really good pressure percentage right there in 19.1. That's NFL worthy. So, we'll see what happens, but I do have my concerns. What's up with this Josh Newton love? I thought I was the guy who was highest on him. PFF and now, ESPN. Dudes are balling over Josh Newton. And hey, I'm all here for it. He's my number 7 corner. And I was like, dude, you guys need to get on this train. And apparently, I'm the one who needs to get on the train. I think that he reacts very poorly to hard cuts like in routes. I saw quite a few of them get away from him. And in the NFL, when you have guys like Justin Jefferson who could, turn on a dime, Amari Cooper, don't think Josh Newton's going to be up to snuff, but he still is a very good corner. Good ball skills. I don't think he's the best athlete, but he's super well balanced, and that's something that's a very big plus. Good for Josh Newton to get this type of love. I don't fully support it this much, but still a really good player. JT Tuimoloau, I don't see it. I think he's a one-hit wonder. And yeah, I mean, there you go. It's, if you see it, he's the number 1 pick, but that's because they kind of feasted on a bum and then Olu was still developing. I certainly don't believe that JT Tuimoloau is remotely close to NFL ready. You see him even versus Amarius Mims, and he is miles away. You just can't see it. But when you do watch him versus that Penn State game, you see this higher level of fluidity, this higher level of play. And just like I said before, I value consistency. So looking at that, I just can't really put my faith in JT. I see a guy like Braylon Trice who's significantly better overall in pretty much every category, and he had a club on his hand. And I don't understand why he's being overlooked for JT. And then I believe this is the end of his big board, but Amarius Mims is his last guy who I have at 15, who I think is an absolute behemoth of a man. I'm seeing, like, is he going to say he's left tackle or right tackle here? Every single time I was like, I'll look up something, it'll tell me something different. Well, he's a left tackle or right. But, I'm curious, and it doesn't say anything. We love that. Why can't they just say left tackle or right tackle? But Mims absolutely locked down. Just talked about JT Tuimoloau. He shut down JT like it was nothing. And, again, that was his first game starting. So Amarius, unbelievable potential. Look at that size. It's ridiculous. And he moves like he's 315 pounds. So one of those guys who was able to come out the gate and was just a pure natural at the position. You don't get to see that too often. That's why a lot of people love Olufashanu. I think Amarius Mims is going to be the new guy on the block. But I'll scroll down so you guys get to see a little bit more into my top 33. Of course, we did not have a top 5 guy go off the board there and Johnny Wilson. But let's check out, because we're already 30 minutes in, essentially. Let's check out all of his position rankings as well, because you guys get a 2-for-1. So quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Riley Leonard, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Quinn Ewers. Honestly, what I should do, but this isn't, to be fair, it's not fully made out yet. So am going to eventually put filters on this so then I can filter it out for you guys. I already know my top 5 quarterbacks is going to be Caleb Williams. Then it is going to be Joe Milton. I have a lot of faith in him, someone who has very little tape, so could end up biting me in the ass. But I thought the same thing about Anthony Richardson last year, and my top 4 QBs remain my top 4 QBs. Then you got Drake May for him at number 2, then Riley Leonard. For me, I have Bo Nix as my number 3, and then I have Drake May, and then I have Quinn Ewers. So we have 4 out of our top 6 that are the same. And then I'm trying to remember who my next QB was. I have Shedeur Sanders still listed in here. I'm going to definitely pump the brakes on that type of love, but there was a significant drop off until the next QB. But yeah, you got Cam Ward. That's probably going to be the next guy. Significant drop off. So you can't really blame them for having these guys in here. I just think that I'm going to take the upside of Joe Milton. Running backs, this is a position I have yet to fully grade out. It's one of the last ones I normally do because it doesn't really require all 22. So it's just honestly a little bit easier of an eval. You got Trey Henderson, Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, Braylon Allen, Trey Benson, Audric Estime, who I just gave out a shout out recently saying he could be this year's Zach Charbonnet. Right now, my running back rankings are going to be Blake Corum. Then I'm debating between Trey Benson. I think I'll put Trey Benson there. But I'm also debating between him and Bucky Irving. So those are my top 3. Donovan Edwards is sneaking into that territory, but I think Audric Estime might actually make it. Braylon Allen's just kind of like a freak. So he and then Travion Henderson would be making it up, and then Donovan Edwards right after. I don't really think there's much debate at the moment of the top 6, but it's, maybe top 7 because I really love Audric Estime, but there's a little bit of wiggle room there. Receivers. Ooh. So let's talk about this. Marvin Harrison's my 1. Keon Coleman is in my top 6. He's kind of there. I already boosted him to where he's at right now as number 6. So my number 2 is Johnny Wilson, who is also Florida State. I think that he is the most insane watch that I've ever had. I fell in love with him more than Marvin Harrison, but that's because Marvin Harrison's Marvin Harrison, and I already knew that. I had no idea Johnny Wilson was going to wow me the way he does. So Coleman still is my number 6. Malik Neighbors is just around 10 for me on my receivers, which is still quite solid. But again, I got Emeka Egbuka there at number 3. Looking at the next wide receiver on my list, I have Troy Franklin over Roma Dunze. Roma Dunze, I think, is wide receiver 15 or 16 for me. I just don't see it, and I could be totally wrong there, but I'm just going to be completely honest until proven wrong. Troy Franklin has just some size issues, but he is really fun to watch. And then, of course, at number 5 for me, since I have Troy there at number 4, number 5 for me is Jermaine Burton, who I'm not giving up on. This dude's a beast. And then number 6, Keon Coleman. It is 1 a.m. So, and then Xavier Worthy. I wasn't a fan of Xavier Worthy overall. Just don't really think he's that great of a player. And I've been a big supporter of Xavier Worthy. The more I watched him, the less impressed I was. Tight ends, Brock, Jatavian, Ben Sinnott, and then Lashy. It's not Lackey, it's Lashy, Stover, and Spanford. So right here, these were 3 of the guys. I think it's number 10, number 9, and number 11 in my tight end list. Very surprising to see Ben Sinnott up this high. But Brock Bowers and Jatavian Sanders are 2 of my top 3. Brock, obviously, number 1. You guys can check out who else is in there. His name's Jaheim Bell. And then Brevin Spanford was also in that list. Then we got fullbacks and H-backs. So that's where he put Jaheim Bell, Aronde Gadsden, Brant Cuthie. So these guys were all listed in that tight ends video, even though it makes totally sense to say they're H-backs / big slots. Offensive tackles. So we got Olu, Joe, JC, Amarius. Then you got Kingsley and Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan's coming off an ACL tear, but Kingsley was the other tackle I wanted to mention. Not to mention Taliese Fuaga, who I think will end up being a big riser, but I know that nobody in the world, including probably Taliese's cousins, know that he is worth where he is on my board. So Jordan Morgan's a good player too. I just want to see who he is after that ACL tear. Guards Cooper Beebe, Christian Mahogany. Waiting for Christian Mahogany's tape to come in because he tore his ACL, didn't play last year. Troy Fautanu, he's a tackle, probably going to end up being a guard. Excited to see a little bit more tape on him because I want to see a little more. But then you got Josh Gray. Another tackle, I believe, that is a guard transfer, and then Donovan Jackson. So for me, I have Cooper Beebe, who is certainly in that conversation. I will be coming out with a guards and centers video very soon. But I have actually, he's my new blue chip player, Christian Haynes out of Connecticut. I fell in love with him. He is just an absolute freak show. Just top tier athleticism. Saw him versus even Chris Jenkins and Mozzie Smith handle him very, very well. So for me, when I get to see that type of dominance, that's going to get me going. And there's only one player, and I think his name is something Dunn. He's number 49 for NC State. A weird defensive interior edge rusher combo. He's a tweener. He's 280. But that guy was the only one to be super successful versus Christian Haynes. And I think he's going to be a superstar at the next level. He'll end up rising on people's boards. I like Zach Zinter as well. Christian Mahogany, again, just waiting to see who he is after that injury. Donovan Jackson is also in that top tier. Bo Limmer, another name I want to mention there. But then we got centers here with Van Pran. Bo Limmer is listed down here. He transferred from guard to center. Center Van Pran also in my list. Graham Barton, tackle, who probably will end up being interior because he actually signed with Duke or went to Duke as a center. Have not seen Zach Frazier or Logan Jones or Matt Lee. Just going to be completely honest. So those guys are definitely need to be on my watch list, and we'll see how it goes. And wise, you got Verse, Tumalau, Adisa. Interesting. So I'll definitely need to watch more Adisa then. Well, I'll need to definitely watch a lot more of Adisa. Then Brady McGregor, intriguing. Eric Watson, then Braylon Trice being all the way down there. I don't understand that personally, but again, to each his own. Then you got Leonard Taylor, Chris Jenkins, Jerzon Newton, Mason Smith, again, another guy who tore his ACL last year. Gonna wait to see who he is. Michael Hall was the worst of the two Ohio State defensive interiors, but love seeing McKinley Jackson Love, who is, I think, my number 6 or number 5 defensive interior. Then we got off-ball linebackers here: Jeremiah Trotter, Junior Colson, Jalen Ford, Smale Munden, Nick Jackson, and Tommy Eichenberg. Respect all of these guys. Have yet to do my all-22 breakdown anybody but Tommy Eichenberg, but that's another position that is on the way with safeties. These are edge rushers / linebackers. Don't understand why we'd put Barrett Carter in the same realm as Turner, Robinson, and Leatu, but it is what it is. Have not seen Steve Linton, and Curtis Jacobs is it's all right. Cornerbacks, and you got Cooley McKinstry, Kalen King, Cooper DeJean, Josh Newton, Jason Marshall, and Denzel Burke. I have a similar top 6. I would have Dwight McLaughlin in there, and then I've already a corners video out, so you guys can check that. But I have Denzel Burke a little bit higher with Jason Marshall, and I think it's just Dwight McLaughlin, who I have actually yet to put in here. That's another name I totally forgot to put in my rankings. So it is what it is, but really good corners in this class. Safeties, Kitchens, Nubin, Bullock, Moore, Ransom, and Bullard. I think it's a little criminal to not have James Williams on there, but this is a very good safety class. And then I don't know anything about kickers or punters. So that is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, subscribe and join the community. See you on the far side.